Hello everyone, what's my going on? I'm Mr. Pazaak and we're back to my story. Last time we left off, we were on Manon and the Sith tried to get us arrested, but I wasn't having any of it. Now we gotta go back. That's the KOTOR facility, I don't care about that. But we gotta go back to the Republic Embassy and show the Republic the info we got from the droid that the Sith were holding on to. Along the way, though, I decided to send Bastila and Mission back to the Ebon Hawk for a hot minute, just so that I could talk to a mysterious Rhodian named Hulas. And he was talking weird stuff about answers and the Sith and the Republic. And he told me that he represented a group of bounty hunters called the Genoharadan. And they were super famous assassins, apparently, for people who were really high up the top and actually knew about them. Apparently I had done really well killing Calo Nord, and that had earned me the right to talk to them, or to get potentially recruited by them, and he gave me a mission to kill two different people, one guy being held in the embassy, and another guy all the way back on Dantooine. And I decided I would take care of both, but in my own time. I could probably deal with the other guy, just go into the Republic Embassy, but I wanted to head over to the East Courtyard. I'd never actually explored the Sith Courtyard. You know, it seemed worthwhile to see the territory I'd been just rudely dragged through quickly.
Hey.
Sith tried to pretend that I had to pay to use their street, but I just told them what pieces of garbage they were, and they backed off enough to let me through. Stumbled across this cute little shop right outside the embassy, an unfortunate location, obviously. Little Rhodian named Yortal was running it and was just getting harassed. Not a Rhodian, sorry, a Thorian was just getting harassed by the Sith. He had some droid stuff. The Sith made fun of him because a lot of it was scavenged. He actually had some pretty high-level gear, but unfortunately for him, I just didn't really need any of it at the time, so quickly headed back out. Unfortunately, though, there really wasn't much else going on in the actual embassy. Although it was time to play my second favorite game, Swoop Racing. I told him I was interested, and as usual, usual, everyone was like, oh no. Everyone was like, you didn't win the Terrace opener, which is fair, you know. Alright, but apparently we had to win, like, a round system, which is somehow different from Terrace's tier system. I don't really understand how. But it was time to race. All I had to do was beat the 3 times again, as I usually did. And I should be fine. It was a pretty wild experience flying over the water on Manon's track. Obviously, I didn't really get to do that on Tatooine or on Terrace, so, you know, lots of new racing experiences are always fun. Figured 22:36 was hopefully going to be a good enough time to, you know, beat the snot out of everybody else, and when I walked into a round of applause, I figured, yep, my time had been pretty good. For once, the crowd actually seemed appreciative of my efforts to go fast. As always, these guys wanted to extort tons of money from me, but I guess that was hopefully them realizing that maybe the times weren't actually that good. But either way, sadly my time didn't carry over to every race I did, which seems a little bit of a silly oversight. But I was back on the course, ready to prove my time was legitimate again. I even tried a little harder to focus on the race this time. But I definitely missed a few pads I could have gotten, so I knew the time could get even lower. basically ended up at almost exactly the same time as the previous round, but as I walked into applause again, I realized everyone didn't care. I had maintained my time and had quickly established myself as a good racer. But it was time to tackle round 3. Apparently the guy who was sector champion actually asked me to meet him in the swoop racer only area, Hucksta Jax. Apparently his time was a 22:50, but thankfully my absolute top time was, both of my times actually, were more than capable of beating that time. But I decided to go talk to Hucksta, see what happened. Well, he tried to threaten me out of winning because he's a scumbag.
Wait a minute. Well, get it.
Well, the other woman in the room, this Cassandra Matale? Twi'lek was a real scumbag. Apparently this guy, this Ithorian Queedle wanted to race, but unfortunately he had pretty much given up apparently. But, just like that, it was time to finally race against Hucksta Jax this time, and all I had to do was maintain as good as I'd been, and I would be top time. Gotta say, for such a large Gamorrean, though, he definitely had put up an impressive time. Could easily attribute my 4 or 14 seconds faster time just to weight difference. But I wasn't exactly prepared to say that to his face. And just like that, I was 2 seconds behind my personal best. But that was still more than enough to beat Hucksta. Walked back into the room for the final applause, and I was sector champion of Manaan. Just like that. Won quite a lot of money. Decided to go talk to Hucksta and see what happened to, if his threat was still holding. He threatened to hit me when, quote, no one was watching, but I wasn't too worried. But, just like that, it took only a few minutes and we had already won Sector Champion of Manaan. But since we didn't exactly have a lot of business to do at the Sith at this point, we decided to head back to the embassy. Hopefully Roland was going to have some good news for us now that we had his droid data back. He told me that apparently the Republic and some Selkath had decided to skirt around the neutrality treaty on Manaan and establish their own underwater base. However, this base, obviously not being legal, was supposed to be secretive, but when something happened at the base, the Republic had to start stealthily hiring mercenaries to send down there. But I ran into Lorgol inside, but it wasn't too much trouble to just slice his cage and set it to prisoner removal mode. But just like that, we had taken our first step into joining the Genoharadan. Little did we know who actually we had just killed. But now that Roland led us into the back area where apparently we were going to take a submersible down to the base to survey some quote-unquote ruins that the Republic had uncovered shortly before the incident. I figured this was potentially my only opportunity to actually find the star map on the ocean floor. My only question was, how had Revan and Malik done it before this base was even built? Though I suppose if it had been a few years ago and the base was under construction, they might have been able to pull it off. But that was not a question for now, and it was time to start exploring the base a little bit and trying to find out where the heck our star map might be. Because the faster we could get off this rock and head to Kashyyyk, the better. Almost immediately we ran into a terrified Twi'lek. Apparently the Selkath down working in the base had gone absolutely insane. He kept saying me and my crew would die if we dared to go into the base, but I wasn't exactly worried about his threats. Whether or not they were threats was kind of irrelevant. Had to get into the base, there wasn't really a choice in the matter. But just like that, we were in the base, and clearly this place had gone through some deterioration. Thankfully, there was a nice computer station set up right near the entrance of the base. And we quickly saw what the mercenary was talking about. Selkath wandering around, brandishing weapons. I could definitely see the argument for them being nuts. But after gassing a few Selkath, we decided to save the rest of our spikes and move on. There were only a few droids standing in our way, and since they probably weren't going to be a huge bit of trouble, we decided to just keep going, and lo and behold, the droids were not a lot of trouble. Bastila and Mission ended up not even doing all that much. I just blew past the droids like they weren't even a thing. But we headed back and quickly ran into some of these crazy Selkath who attacked us as soon as they saw us. Luckily, although they were definitely deranged and attacking us with everything they had at their disposal, they also definitely seemed to be pretty nuts, and they didn't really have any weapons. They just kind of flailed at us and ran at us as if they'd gone insane. What the mercenary had said made more and more sense.
Yes?
Luckily enough, we managed to find a Jedi Master Robe, which was a perfect little pickup for Bastila to start using. Found some parts sitting right next to a droid and booted it up, gave it all the upgrades I could with what I had at my disposal, and sent it on its way. As always, any kind of ally in this situation was definitely going to be appreciated. Almost immediately, the droid opened up a door to another room where there were two more advanced droids on patrol. Sadly, one of them froze me with carbonite quickly, but once the other one was destroyed, Bastila and Mission and the droid managed to take away the other one. There were evidence of Sith corpses down at the base, which seemed incredible. The Sith had supposedly been looking for information about this place. That was why Roland had asked us to go get the droid data. But once we came down here, we suddenly found out that there seemed to be Sith hanging around. Along the way, we managed to find something called a sonic emitter, and it seemed to, according to a datapad we found in the same locker, it had been designed to help deal with the the Faraxan sharks wandering around outside. We stumbled across the giant security droid that we had spotted on camera, but thankfully it was not difficult to deal with. And we left the droid behind to continue its patrol, while Bastila Mission and I advanced forward. Thankfully, Mission and Bastila both managed to get some insight based on destroying the droid. But then we found ourselves in a large locker room full of public corpses and a bunch of lockers that were just nice and secure. But we managed to open them all up pretty easily.
Got it.
Found an environmental suit, which I knew when we clearly needed to go outside to find the star map would be helpful in not dying.
Is somebody out?
But then when I tried to open one of the lockers, I actually found a man had apparently stuffed himself inside a locker to try to hide from the Cellcath. I tried to convince him to come out, but unlike the mercenary at the front of the base, he was having none of it, even though I'd already cleared the way.
Yeah?
But it was his loss. If he thought he could survive until the Republic showed up, I wasn't sure how, but I wasn't going to stop him. Found a second sonic emitter, but since we hadn't found a second environmental suit, I figured I was going to be the only one going outside until in the meantime. But just like that, we had already gone around half the base and had encountered the second patrolling group of guard droids. But just like the first batch, they were not too difficult to destroy. A few quick flashes of the lightsaber from me and Bastila, and they were all cut up. Right away, we noticed that some of the rooms nearby actually had exits to the outside.
Let's make this quick.
But until we had finished securing the base, I wasn't very comfortable in heading out there alone.
Yes?
Sure.
Stumbled across a room with one Cellcath, but more annoyingly, there was a mine sitting at the door. But pretty quickly we established that outside of the two mercenaries we'd stumbled across, there was definitely no one left alive. Just a bunch of defense systems that must have gone haywire, as they always do. It's kind of a miracle that as Jedi we didn't really have to rely on physical defense systems, because man oh man. Experience taught me quickly that they went wrong all the time. Wasn't too sure where Bastila and Mission had gotten off to.
I'm here.
Yes?
But a quick check and they decided to come out of the room they were hiding off in together.
Yeah?
I really needed Mission for a quick check of the mines that we found in the area. I was tired of getting poisoned all the time, especially with Cellcath using their naturally administered poisons on me. But thankfully Mission was able to pry herself away from Bastila and they cleared up the mines for me. It also didn't hurt that we were almost finished exploring the base. Ran into one more group of Cellcath, but other than that, it didn't seem like there were many people left alive. But with Bastila backing me up with the Force, Mission using Zalbar's bowcaster as rapidly as she could, we cleaned up the last group of Cellcath pretty easily. They left behind some gear that they had apparently forgotten how to use when they went insane, but it wasn't too much of a problem to just pick it up, and although none of it was super useful.
No problem. Didn't work. No problem. Didn't work. No problem.
Stumbled across a door that decided to give me some trouble until finally I just decided to say forget it and sent Mission after it.
What?
Of course, she had to taunt me with a nice little simple when she opened the door, but we were back out in the main area of the base. I actually found an extremely potent gas mine set up somewhere. But thankfully, Mission was still able to clean it up. But apparently we had moved over to the eastern side of the base, so we decided to take a few minutes to just finish clearing it out. Until we realized that we had actually looped ourselves around without even realizing it. But thankfully with the main portion of the base clear, I knew it was time for us to head out, and having found only the single environmental suit, I volunteered and both ladies were more than willing to let me take the trouble of going outside. Annoyingly enough, once I got outside, it was hell to move around in the suit. Clomping around, barely able to move my legs. It was a real struggle. I knew it was really a lot of heavy water pressure down here, but I quickly stumbled across another survivor who said that the only way for us to get out, even though he didn't realize that apparently I'd come in from the base, or that something had to happen, I don't remember what, but he said we had to head outside and get around to the main docking area if we wanted to get out of here. However, unfortunately for him, once we stepped outside, he turned around to warn me about the... He warned me about the sharks, but then almost immediately he ended up getting scooped away. Thankfully, I had recovered 2 of the sonic emitters inside, so hopefully the Firaxis sharks weren't going to be too much trouble for me. Although I wasn't sure just how quickly I could activate the stupid emitters. But thankfully their range was decent and their cooldown time was not too bad, so... After stumbling across a pair of Firaxa, I kept moving forward. Unfortunately, as I said, going was very slow. I actually came across an area where it looked like something had smashed in one of the sections of the base and flooded a room. Thankfully, the water door had apparently kept anything out, but the shark hiding inside very nearly got me. Hadn't exactly been prepared to see a shark wandering around inside the base. But thankfully, whatever had punched such a massive hole in the wall was gone. Came out and found 2 Firaxis sharks guarding 2 different passageways to other sections of the base. One of them noticed me and ran over, and I quickly decided to take his pathway to go around and try to avoid the other shark if at all possible. The emitters seemed to be holding out, and I hadn't even touched the second one yet, but why risk it, you know? Thankfully, the one shark that I had taken care of had been guarding an airlock door. Based on where I'd ended up, I was pretty positive that I wasn't just heading back into the same part of the base I'd come from. However, almost immediately I stumbled across yet more insane Selkath, as well as an extra suit that I had no way to get back to Mission in Bastila, unfortunately. It wasn't exactly easier to take on force insane Selkath by myself, but I took down one quickly and took down the second while I was deflecting sonic blasts from the other 2. I wasn't sure what the Selkath's interest in sonic pistols was, but I dealt with them very quickly. However, as soon as I opened the next door, I found myself in a room with 3 doors and 2 people behind a force field. But for whatever crazy reason, they decided the best plan was to try to kill me. No. But luckily there was a computer control in the room. The 2 were fairly quick to apologize once I had calmed them down. After I had stopped them from depressurizing the room I was in and killing me. The 2 of them explained that they had found some ruins recently, which could easily be where the star map was. But when they had discovered it, they'd also found some giant Firaxis shark. Like, absolutely massive, unheard-ofly huge. And when it had emerged, it had emitted a sound through the water, and the Selkath had gone insane at that point. Well, their hypothesis was that if I wanted to get to where those ruins were, and put a stop to this giant Firaxis shark, I would have to either kill it or destroy the KOTOR harvesting equipment that was located there. However, not looking to kill a giant Firaxis shark, especially considering the fact that if it meant something to the Selkath, I would be in deep trouble. I put forth the idea that maybe I would destroy the gear, and while the man was not happy with the idea, the woman backed me up. Plus, at that point, neither one of them had really a way to stop me. So, with that, I took off to the door behind them, put on my suit, ran into a Firaxa almost immediately, who didn't take kindly to me showing up.